Mechanics. Basically everything that's after the grammar, usage, and punctuation is mechanics. Spelling is a big chunk of that. Spelling is, you have to be smarter than the computer, so the computer will catch about 75% of your errors. All right, and every time Microsoft Word comes up with a new iteration, it gets a little bit smarter, but nonetheless, you still have to know the difference between form and from, because those are both words. And you have to know the difference between scarred and scared, because those are both words, and they're both verbs. And so in the sentence, Microsoft Word is going to be like, I don't know if you mean somebody who's afraid or if somebody who's been damaged. So you need to be really careful about your spelling and make sure you check every single word to make sure it's the word that you meant. In the offenders of spelling, homonyms seem to be the thing that's the most difficult for students. All right, and so homonyms are words that sound alike but have different meanings and are spelled differently. So things like two, and two. Right, so preposition, to, number, two, too, has to do with a certain threshold, like this is too painful to endure, or it can also mean also, because there's nothing confusing about English. All right, more homonyms. Another one that's really common is the there, and there. All right, so the there is, has the word here in it. It's an easy way to remember is here, there, and where all are about place, and they all have the H-E-R-E, and that's one way to remember that which there you're talking about. All right, there in possessive is their book, it belongs to those two people, T-H-E-I-R, and then they are, so there, the apostrophe is replacing the A in the contraction. So capitalization is a pretty important part of mechanics. You know the basic rules, right? You know the beginnings of sentences. You got to capitalize proper nouns. You need to capitalize the titles of books and songs. All right, but you'll notice in the example here that prepositions, the girl from Ipanema, so from is not capitalized. All right. The most difficult part of the capitalization has to do with titles, like when do I capitalize the Chancellor? So if you're talking about Chancellor Angela Merkel, then yes, you would capitalize it. But if you're just talking about, just some random chancellor of the university, it would not be capitalized. But President Roosevelt would be capitalized, but just the president wouldn't be. Okay. So numbers really sort of depends on if you're writing an MLA or APA or CMS or Chicago or Turabian or the American Anthropological Association format. So depending on what you're writing in, you got to check the style guide. But in general, right, so in MLA, numbers under 4 syllables should be written out. So if you can say it in 1 or 2 words, generally write it out. APA, however, numbers below 10 are written out, but 10 and above, and I think it's actually 11, so from 11 and above, then you are going to, use your numbers. When referring to money, please include the currency. All right, and here's why. Many, many years ago, when I was first starting out at this job, I overheard 2 teachers discussing how students just don't know that they're supposed to include the currency. I couldn't believe how did they get to college and not know this? And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to make sure I always tell my students this, because I don't want anybody saying that about my students. So you don't just say it's worth 10, right? Because that could be like 10 horseshoes, 10 yen. All right, make sure it's clear. You're talking about $10. You can use the $ in the numbers, or you can write out the words. But make sure you include currency. All right. Similarly, when using percents, you can be right either way. You can write out the words 65%, or you can use the numbers and the percent sign, but you can't have a mixed construction. Okay? Abbreviations. All right. Generally, in academic writing, you don't want abbreviations anyway, but for the first time you use the term, write it all out, and then you can put in parentheses what the shorter version. All right. For time markers or dates, make sure you include that, so 400 BCE, which stands for before Common Era, or 1800 PM or 6 o'clock PM. And you notice the difference there, the capitalized versus the not capitalized. All right. Make sure that you abbreviate units with the numbers, but if you don't have a number, then you write out the word. All right, so I ran a 1 kilometer race. It's abbreviated. The kilometer nearly killed me because, you know, I'm a middle-aged, pudgy woman, and, you know, running is not what I do. Italics. All right, a lot of the time students want to use italics to emphasize. Don't do that. All right, italics in academic writing are saved for really specific things. They're used for titles, they're used for ships and spacecraft names, they're used for foreign words, all right, but just to make it really, really clear about something, don't italicize. If you want to do that for your fanfic. Please don't do it in academic writing. Hyphen. I love this. The dictionary determines how to treat compound words. All right. If in doubt, double check the dictionary because this rule is in constant flux. I remember when email was e-mail. All right. My mother remembers when tomorrow was to-morrow, M-O-R-R-O-W. All right. So the compound word rule changes a lot, and especially in American English because, you know, we like to find random vocabulary and just adapt it. So that's the word. But here are some other general rules. So hyphenate 2 or more adjectives before the noun. So like, he's well-known candidate, right? So the adjectives are describing the candidate. But I think it's fun if you're using the adjectives after the noun, right? You don't hyphenate. I don't know why. It is just the rule. It is idiomatic, as my German teacher used to say. All right, so hyphenate your fractions, some numbers, but not all your numbers. All right, again, double check with the dictionary. All right, and then if you need to hyphenate for clarity, like recreate versus recreate, all right, they have 2 different meanings. And here is your student practice. So please go through this. You'll see there are many, many, many errors. Your job is to edit the errors, print it out, and bring it to class. Thanks.